Hi there, Elevated Planet community. This is John Drew here from Elevated Planet, and today I'm with Aoibhinn Murray. Hi there, Aoibhinn. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
Fantastic, thank you. Fantastic. And I've been really looking forward to our conversation here because to fully divulge to the community, I've had a healing session with Aoibhinn a few weeks ago, and I've got to say it was amazing. Not just me, but my partner as well. And she had similar feedback on it. It was like quite something. So I was interested to explore this further because I know the story behind this is not exactly mainstream conventional.
Absolutely, yeah. It's anything but. Even in the spiritual world, it's not normal, you know. So it's pretty out there. So you need to put your woo-woo hat on.
Yes, yes. But you see, this is the thing. The more I get into this, the more I realize that the abnormal is actually really that is part of reality. It's just that we hadn't appreciated it till now. Now is the time when all these new versions and expanded versions of reality are coming on stream. So here's an opportunity for us to kind of grasp it and to try and get our heads around it and see where it takes us. So one place I want to take this conversation, because to go back to the healing session that you gave me, that is something that is really special. Now, and I know the background to that, how that came about. Again, it's like this all goes out under the name of the Twiglet Zone because it's fantastical tales accompanied by a savory snack. Now, because this gets fantastical. Now, I don't have to stretch my mind to actually believe what actually happened, but I wonder, would you be prepared to share with our audience exactly how the healing modalities to create the quantum light pod healing came to be?
Yes. Okay. So I'd ask everybody to put their tinfoil hat on first of all before we go any further, and just keep an open mind and keep an open heart. So let me go back to insomnia. I had a session a few years ago for insomnia. I have been experiencing entities for a very long time. I had been experiencing entity attacks for a very long time, not knowing why, trying to figure out how to stop them. Had this insomnia session, and during that, it's what's it called? Rapid Transformational Therapy, RTT,
Okay.
hypnotherapy. And what I figured out during it was it actually began at 5 years of age. So I started seeing entities at 5 years of age, and I
Wow.
started experiencing them. Now, I knew that I had been experiencing them all the way through my teenage years and my adult years. Because I was so accustomed to it, I just dealt with it. And
Mm.
nobody else could really help me. None of my teachers knew how to help me with it. And what I found was that the teachers who tried to help me with it, they put it into their own frame of reference. So what I was talking about seeing wasn't really what they could advise on.
Right.
So fast forward then to 2.5 years ago. I had been a healer for 29 years and doing all my holistic stuff as well. Now, in between that, I have worked in the corporate field, I've worked in the public sector, I've worked in the private sector as well. So I've gained quite a lot of experience in various different areas. Because of the recession back down in 2008, I had to let go of the therapy room and go back into that field again to make ends meet because nobody was
Yes.
spending money on this stuff. So go back to 2.5 years ago, I get a call out of the blue from a friend of mine who is a medium in England, and we used to be in a mediumship circle together when I lived there. And I hadn't spoken to him for years, and he contacted me and he said, we had a conversation, and he said, could I do a healing session for him online? And I said, yeah, okay, no problem. So the day before I was due to have a healing session with him, I just tuned into his energy just to see what it was like, what was going on, just to maybe scan him a little bit. But when I went in to have a look, I was met by a spirit guide with this mechanism
Hmm.
that turns out to be the light pod. And I was like, what is this now? What is this you're showing me? So I was instructed to place the person inside. Like when I say place the person inside, I mean place his light body or his energetic body on the
Right.
quantum level inside him. So when I'm working with him, I would imagine his light body being inside of this. So my consciousness would be inside this contraption with him. And then I start working with him as well. So I said to him the next day, do you mind if we don't just do pure Reiki or vortex healing? Do you mind if I actually incorporate this new thing that I've been given, because I need to test it out and try it out? And he said, yeah, no problem. And it was a very interesting session. Because he was a medium as well, some of the things that I saw he had seen as well.
Mm-hmm.
And we had another session shortly after that, and the issue that he had presented with cleared up, which was great. So about a week later, I'm doing my normal meditation, and because I often journey, I was lying on the sofa. It's much more comfortable for me than sitting up. And suddenly I went into a completely different level that I haven't experienced before. Now, I know I've experienced conscious astral traveling because I can feel myself sometimes rolling out of my body or rolling backwards. And I know, and for years I wouldn't allow myself to actually do that because it freaked me out too much. But over time, I've allowed myself go a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. But I knew this was different. I felt myself being pulled up. And I started going down these kind of a vortex, and it had blue and pink and white in it. They were the colours, the main colours that I remember. And then it would turn into a different vortex. So there's all these vortices. I was going through different kind of tunnels, if you like.
Right.
But I would land every so often. And one of the places I landed was, what do you call it? A front step, a porch.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
I knew it wasn't an Irish house. I knew it wasn't an English house because of the way it was designed. So there were steps up to this porch, and then you had the porch, and then there were dogs. There were about 4 or 5 dogs on the porch. And I saw 2 men walking up. They were taking boxes out of a car, and there was beer in one of the boxes. And they were walking up the steps into the house, and I was observing all of this, kind of going, this is wild, this is really mad stuff, again, this is mad even for me. And then one of the dogs started barking at me. And I get on very well with animals, and I love dogs in particular. So I was trying to pet the dog, and I was trying to soothe the dog. But the dog was having none of this. And then I was thinking, why is the dog not, I'm trying to placate the dog. Why isn't it working? But I realised, I looked at his eyes, and I realised he was looking right through me.
Right.
So he couldn't actually see me. And I went, oh my God, this is what it must be like to be a ghost and to be grounded, and you can't move on and people can't see you. And I thought, wow, what an amazing lesson to get, what an amazing experience to have. And then suddenly I was up and I was flying again. And this experience is like, it's different to astral, it's a bit different to astral traveling. You feel like you're being sucked up and sucked up and sucked up, but yet you still have the ability to do things that you want to do. And then suddenly you're pulled off again. And I always tend to go as far as, I went up into past the clouds because I was looking at everything. I was experimenting with the energy. I wanted to see what I can do, what I can't do. I remember I was going down a street and there was a roundabout, and I remember thinking, I wonder, can I go through the roundabout? Will my body allow me to go through? And I was able to go through the roundabout. So I was playing around with it, and it was fascinating as well. But I would often get so far up, and I'd get up to as far as the stars, and then I'd start going above that. And I remember hitting a ceiling, and I couldn't go any further. And I remember thinking, actually, I'm glad I can't go any further because I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to come back.
Yeah.
So that was one of the experiences. And then suddenly I'm back in my body, and I can hear the music beside me. So, I mean, I was not dreaming. I was absolutely not dreaming. I was fully conscious, and I've had lucid dreams all my life, but this wasn't a lucid dream. So I was fully aware that, and it felt like I was inside a tin can. My body felt like a tin can, and I was kind of inside it. It's a strange thing to try and explain. And I'm lying there with my eyes closed, but that didn't matter. I could still see, and I can see 3 beings above me, and there's this, it's kind of like gauze or muslin cloth.
Right.
And it's above my head, so I couldn't see their features, but I could see the shape of them.
Okay.
And all I felt was deep peace. I felt a lot of peace. I felt very non-threatened. I knew I was safe.
Mm.
And I realized, and my first immediate thing was, oh, there are a medical team. There's a
Mm.
medical team here to work with me. There's a medical team here. And I was like, where did that come from?
Wow.
So I knew on some level there was they were there to work on my body. And they began pulling something out of my left arm, nearly round my shoulder area. And I felt this object being pulled and pulled and pulled. And I remember thinking, this is really going to hurt when it pops the skin. So I
Mm.
was preparing myself, and I was starting to get a bit tense, and I was preparing myself for this thing to be extracted from the skin. And then it popped, and it didn't hurt at all. And that's when I
Mm.
realized, oh, it's not in my physical body. It's actually in
Right.
my light body. It's my etheric
Yeah.
body that they're taking
Yeah.
it out of. They removed another two of these, but I didn't experience those. I didn't see those. I just know that they were in my lower area, like my
Mm.
legs or somewhere like that. But I felt like I had been allowed to see this happening, and I had been allowed to experience it. Well, I remember I kicked off that meditation around 12 o'clock, and it was around 12:45 when I came out of the experience,
Mm.
and my mind was blown. I'd seen entities before, I'd experienced entities before. I've been physically attacked by them. I have dealt with all sorts of crazy stuff.
Mm.
Cray cray. This was on a totally different level. I did not
Right.
know how to process this at all. So I contacted somebody who I thought might be able to process or help me to understand it.
Mm.
And this is a woman I had done some work with in the January, and this was either the April or the May time in 2020. I'd been advised by my mediumship mentor, who I've been with for 5 years, my current one. He had said, you've got to have a session with this woman, because I had a session with her and the information that came out was incredible. So booked a session, 4 hours long. And the stuff that came out of my mouth during the session, I didn't even believe afterwards, even though it's all recorded.
Wow.
But apparently, even now, I still find it difficult. I was channeling my boss, for want of a better word, who was talking about some personal stuff about mine, because I didn't believe. I
Mm.
knew ETs, I knew aliens, I knew these things existed, but that wasn't my path. My
No.
path had been the spiritual path up until that point. So he came in, started talking through me, and I sent him packing. I said, "Oh no, I'm not having this. I'm not having anybody coming into my body and starting to talk and channeling. No way. This is not. This is not safe as far as I'm concerned." So I sent my boss off with a flea in his ear, and the practitioner said, "Would you mind if he came back in? Because maybe we could find out a bit more information." So I said, "Okay, but keep it short." So he came back in and he gave a lot of knowledge, passed on a lot of knowledge about the work that I do in the universe, and it was quite enlightening. After I finished that session in January, I didn't really think much about it after that,
Mm.
until I had the incident in April or May time, whenever it
Mm.
was. And I thought, who on earth can I contact who might think that this isn't mad, who
Yeah.
will actually believe me? So I contacted her, and she's a channeler. So she replied, and she had gotten a message from these three entities saying that these were implants that I had placed in myself before I incarnated.
Ah.
So I wouldn't go too fast too soon.
Right.
I wanted to have as many earthly experiences as I could have, and I really have. I have worked in so many different industries. I've done so many. I've sung on stage. I've danced professionally. I've all sorts of things.
Mm.
I've worked in banks that are totally non-related, and the going too fast too soon makes total sense now, because when those things were removed, whatever they were, I feel one of them may have been what I have found out to be an astral tag, where you can be tagged on the astral realm. And I think maybe I was attracting a lot of different entities so I could learn how to get into my strength, get into my
Right.
sovereignty,
Mm.
and not give in. Because now I teach others, do not go into fear, because you're consenting when you go into fear.
Mm.
You're giving your power away. There's a lot of stuff that I teach on my courses with regard to this, and getting above the conditioning and the mind control of the
Mm.
3D plane. So it was about a week between that experience of the three entities and the light pod. The light pod came about a week before that, and then the three entities came and removed those things. And after that, everything just changed. My whole life totally changed.
Mm.
I went back into my work full time. No work for me in the corporate sector anymore.
Right.
And it was all word of mouth. So I, first of all, I asked for volunteers so I could start practicing the modality and
Yes.
working with it, so I could start to understand what it is I'm dealing with, what energy I'm working with. And the feedback was so amazing from each of the volunteers that I got to a point where I thought, well, I can actually start offering this as a service now.
Mm.
And I didn't realize at the beginning of it, a lot of the people who were coming to me for it were teachers themselves, or they were mediums, and then they were telling their students, or they were telling other people in their groups, and then they were starting to book online for this as well. But
Mm.
my own abilities went up too. So
Mm.
when I work, oh, I have to tell you something before I talk about this. I said to the team, because I said, what do you want me to call this, my spirit team? And they said quantum light pod. And I went, oh no, that sounds so awful. I said, can I just call it quantum light healing? No, we have to have the pod in there as well. So that's why it's called quantum light pod healing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, well, it's. I know we're a team, and I volunteered to be here, so let's go for it.
And you know what? Again, just to interject on that, really, I suppose, having gone through that, I felt that light pod, and it's the weirdest feeling.
Yes, other people have said that to me as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, because I did the healing for my mediumship mentor, and he said the same thing. Because I said, I was nearly kind of saying, I'm sorry, this is the name of it, right? He was saying, no, it's actually it suits because I felt really cocooned and really
Yes.
nurtured.
Yes.
What I was going to say to you is when the light pod forms, it comes out through the person's crown chakra. And it used to come out of their solar plexus in the beginning, and that changed, and now comes out through the crown. And it forms an egg-shaped kind of structure around the person with lots and lots of different kind of grid lines and that. And then my consciousness goes in, and I start reading their energy centers, and I start
Mm.
reading the aura, and being able to remove attachments, being able to remove parasites and see parasites, and tuning into illnesses that are just in manifestation now, or the imprint of them is still there from a previous illness. There just were a lot of things that came online for me that
Mm.
were very new to work with
Mm.
as a consequence of it. So it seems to be, it's still evolving, it's still developing and changing, but it is pretty magic. I have to say, it's pretty magic to be able to
Well,
do
it
it.
is. Well, it's magic to be on the receiving end of it. That I do know. It's the weirdest thing. So just to explain to the community, what happens is that we just had a bit of a chat in advance, and then I lay back and just sort of like Aoibhinn's over in Ireland, and but we had the camera kind of going, so she could see and read the energy or whatever. But I could feel this happening because even though Aoibhinn, you don't say very much during the session, and that you might be like an hour going through from top to bottom, right? So like covering all the energy body and all this kind of thing. I could feel the activity going through my body, starting at the crown, and I could feel you moving down into the third eye, into the throat chakra, into the heart, and I could feel it. It's just the weirdest thing. But it was like that. You used the word cocoon. It was like I was in this beautiful cocoon, and I was like, you get lost in that moment. It's just a beautiful experience. You just kind of get in. It's just really lovely, and I was really happy afterwards as well because you said, oh yeah, it'll dissolve over the next 6 days or 7 days or something like that. And I said, well, that's fantastic, because as I was laying there, I was like, I would love to be able to sleep in this when it's done, so that I can kind of like really enjoy this.